A warm welcome to all of our friends, fans, community members, participants, squadmates, and indeed viewers worldwide on various platforms. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching my podcast and indeed for supporting our online community here on Twitch. How's everybody doing today? A very, very nice day out here in our local area. Sunny but very, very cold, I have to say. Even realised that perhaps we are to be getting some snow tonight, so really quite extraordinary considering that we are in April. Very, very nice day for, leisurely spring strolls, and not a good day really to spend indoors, but we got to be adhering to social distancing measures. We need to be abiding by the rules, making sure we are not spreading COVID. Even if you had your jab, even if you are vaccinated like myself, you want to be wearing a face covering, you want to be shielding and basically staying away from other people, making sure that we are defeating the virus. And as we've seen in the UK, the vaccination program is giving us absolutely phenomenal results. We've had a very, very major drop on the number of cases and most importantly on the fatalities level. So we are really going towards, I hope, the end of this dreadful, dreadful period of our history. And I'm certainly adhering to all the rules, and as you know, obviously from my broadcast and everything else I said, I have been in isolation for more than 13 months, and we're just going outside to get some very basic necessities, to get my dinner, and that was about it. So very, very difficult for me because I'm an outdoorsy person. I like spending time outside and doing various things and being very active. It is completely unbelievable that within 13 months I've not been to central London even once. And that's because of the pandemic. Otherwise I'll be going there every single day. And, really, it's very, very hard to fathom all of this, but we are getting through it. And I just want to ask all of our friends to do exactly the same. Brace up, adhere to the measures, make sure you get your vaccine as soon as practicable, and then just carry on and remain positive, forward-thinking and upbeat at all times. Thank you to everyone who's been writing. And I'm aware of the fact that I've not been streaming any games now for a little while, for a week or so, and I needed a bit of a respite, a bit of rest, and we had a very, very hectic period of about 6 months with lots of different games on offer, plenty of multiplayers, lots of PvPs, and generally we had a new community built in here attached to Warzone, in addition to Destiny and Apex and The Division. So that was very, very good, thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think everyone in my community was also needing a bit of a break really from myself, from the channel and from all of those activities. The way I do my gaming is usually very, very precisely measured. I'm not a gamer who likes hammering the games day and night, and I do them always in a measured quantity, and therefore doing this channel, which would mean on average 5 hours per day of streams, has been very, very heavily taxing on me overall, because obviously every stream requires preparation. As I obviously run the news as well as all the other community content, I need to do a lot of admin, and then if we are doing live sessions of Destiny and Warzone, there's plenty of PvP, live on air communication and interaction, so that can be very, very tiring. So I want to say to everyone else who's a streamer or indeed a gamer, make sure you are always gaming in a measured way, so you define exactly how long you can be spending on a particular game and how you are to be tackling it together with your community members. Don't really hammer the game all night long if you are looking at the competitives. That's not the way the games should be played at all, and that's certainly not the reason as to why they were created in the first place. So presently, although I'm not streaming any games, I am certainly playing a number of those that are on my consoles, and I told you that everyone would need to be looking at what's offered for free on Xbox and PlayStation. And on PlayStation we are getting some wonderful games this month, and they're coming our way on PS Plus as well as PS Now services. So on the live streaming services PS Now, we are getting Marvel's Avengers and Borderlands 3. So these games are AAA blockbusters, and as you know, the Avengers didn't have a really particularly good launch. I'd like to invite all of our friends to simply have a look at the game, download it and play it as much as possible, to support the developer. And Borderlands 3 is a classic for myself, I think the best out of 3, and I thoroughly enjoyed my gameplay there, and I will be obviously trying to get as much as possible squeezed in during the period when the game is going to be accessible through the PlayStation's streaming services. Both games are not there indefinitely, so you need to really double check the expiry dates and make sure your gaming is done accordingly. On the other hand, we are also getting 3 games. It's Zombies and what else? Days Gone and there's Oddworld. All 3 games are offered through PS Now, PS Plus services, and the last one is also accessible for everyone, yet playable just on PlayStation 5. I want to say to everyone, if you are an avid PlayStation Plus collector, make sure you are collecting all the PS5 games, even if you do not have the console, because they will stay in your online account and you will be able to play them at a later date without any difficulty. So that certainly is the way forward. I've done all of that, and the only game that caused me some problems was Just Cause 4. I think it was given to us in December. I downloaded it but didn't register my account, so I complained, and hopefully I'll be able to get the code to have it in my collection. And we all complained about the new method, which was telling us that we would need to be downloading in order for the game to register as given through our PS Plus services, and therefore they changed it again in January, and therefore there's no longer the need to be downloading the full game to the console in order to have it fully done and dusted in your account. Well, the difficulties there really are mostly to do with the lengthy downloads and the lack of storage space on console. So PS5, PS4 that I have, it has a very, very limited amount of space, because I have Apex, Destiny 1 and 2 installed, and also have Warzone, and that altogether occupies roughly around 500 gigs. And evidently everyone would need to have an extra external hard drive that can provide you with extra storage, which will obviously serve you very well. I recommend maybe Western Digital or Seagate. 4 to 8 gigs, 4 to 8 terabytes would be sufficient for a collection of AAA blockbusters, which you can be indeed playing at any given moment in time. The difficulties I had on Xbox were very similar, although my hard drive on Xbox One is much bigger than the one on PlayStation. That, if you are collecting lots of games through Game Pass, and even the older, smaller ones, I've downloaded 150 games, and then obviously my drive would be fairly full. It doesn't allow you to be having many AAA blockbusters for that reason. And then I remember initially when I started downloading games from the Game Pass, 5 to 6 blockbusters would be good enough to occupy the entire space, and specifically if you had Warzone, which is probably the worst of all as far as the storage space is concerned, you would experience certain difficulties. They're introducing some methods to which we can be downsizing files, but this is a serious issue for the developers, and we've seen, for instance, with Bungie, that they had to be downsizing some of the content due to the lack of space. And we've heard also from Google recently that they will start deleting dormant accounts, which is not something they've ever done before. It's very, very unpopular, because people can be dormant for a little while for a variety of different reasons. And, storage is becoming a problem, because everybody's saving everything, and just like any other storage space, it comes to a halt sooner or later. We always think of a cloud being something virtual and something limitless, but nothing is limitless, however big it appeared to be. So anyway, coming back to our gaming, first of all, make sure you download the games that are recommended, because the developers of Marvel Avengers will really appreciate your support and assistance. The game didn't have a good release, and I think from my experience of their alpha and beta, this is a game with huge potential, and we really want to support it. On Xbox we had Elder Scrolls, and that was the real unlimited and all included during this week, all offered free of charge. So if you were doing it during this weekend, you were able to stroll to different missions that otherwise are locked. So again, highly recommended. Everyone needs to download it and try it. Elder Scrolls Online is a magnificent open world game. It's constantly evolving, similar to Destiny, and it's been greatly enhanced ever since they started from the beginning. The game looks and feels very different. The graphics are obviously next gen by now, and you have plenty to do. Also similar to Destiny, it is a game that can attract a very large number of people attached to your channel or to your own online community. You can make lots of new friends, talk a lot, and sometimes just strolling through open world will give you this opportunity. Make sure you connect with people sending you messages and asking for some assistance and help, and therefore you will build your own very, very helpful and supportive community. Generally, unlike with Call of Duty games, where you will get some unpleasant gamers who are having aggressive competitive streaks on display, with Elder Scrolls I've never come across a single one who would be like this, because it's a different sort of game, and therefore very family friendly, very sociable, and certainly a proper kind of social network that would have been built around, I should say, the actual game. Elder Scrolls Online had become a social network in itself, similar to what we had with all the other big AAA blockbusters. So these are the recommendations for the weekend. In addition, the newest arrival on Game Pass is one of our personal favorites, GTA 5, Grand Theft Auto, one of the Rockstar masterpieces which they produced over the years, and it's come back. In fact, we did have it on Game Pass a little while ago, and I think in view of all the expansions and everything that's been going on with the streaming services of Microsoft, they've come back, and I'm hoping that they will reintroduce Red Dead Redemption 2, because I was trying to finish it on Game Pass, but it just didn't have a very long life there. It disappeared rather suddenly, and therefore I've completed only about 25 or 30% of the game, which was to my great disappointment. The idea is, if you have games there, that you sort of slowly but surely go through them. You don't have to play them every day, and therefore you complete, and I was not able to do this. So for myself, GTA 5 coming back, its arrival on Friday was the priority. Downloaded the game, and I've gone to play it, because guess what, compared to all the other GTAs, this one I've never played before. I've had it on my list, I want to have a look at it, but actually never ever entered the arena of that wonderful GTA open world. So I played it really throughout the weekend, and yet again I find it to be quite challenging. There is a lot of driving in there, and riding motorbikes, and I'm not really a person who is in awe of driving games, but what really is great about GTA is it blends in different types of subgenres. Obviously you have this massive open world, so it's an open world game. Then you have a lot of story driven content, so it's like an RPG, an adventure game. Then you have plenty of driving, which is obviously bringing you to the driving games, and then you have fighting, then you have action sequences. So all of that's blending in perfectly together, and it's a very, very big open world with lots of activities, and certainly one of the very best in the series. Really very, very atmospheric. The dialogue is very well written. It does remind me of the dialogue you would have seen in films of David Ayer or the books of James Ellroy, that are kind of well embedded in the life of Los Angeles, and generally plenty of music which is portraying the city as it is, and lots of local cultural iconography that is fully on display where we go. So all of that is there for you to enjoy, and you just need to click on that install button, get it on your console, and indeed crack on. I did have some difficulties in the sequences where I had to drive and chase some of the guys. At the beginning of the game, you have to be chasing one of the guys who is is behind the pavements on his motorbike, and therefore you need to get him and bring the motorbike back, basically like Repo Man. And I kept driving and driving, and he was getting away. So eventually I worked out a method to which I could kind of ban him instead of doing anything that would be causing me any major issues, and it worked, but it did take a bit of time. And as you will be familiar with Rockstar, when you walk, when you drive, when you go around, you will come across very many different NPCs. They will always have like a question mark attached to them on your map, so if you're looking at the map, make sure you always walk or drive towards these question marks. Those characters will be unlocking side missions and additional content. Do not ignore them, And I keep saying this again and again because I had some questions coming in through the comments and emails of late, because I stream here open world games and talked quite a lot about them, and people said, well, it just seems to be like an infinite content, you will never finish the game. Well, the fact is, these games have been created to be played for very, very many hours, and the idea which they had originally was that the game would be almost like an infinite activity game, which it isn't. If you look at Fallout 3 or 4, they do have the ending, and also Mass Effect Trilogy. These are the games that had the greatest number of content of that era. But we moved forward. We moved forward to the worlds of Destiny 2 and Fallout 76, where we have an ever-evolving world, where the content is being constantly brought in. So the idea is, first of all, if you're entering that sort of game, well, you're not doing Warzone. You're not collecting your scores. You're not just having like a couple of matches and then that's it. It is all about how you are, first of all, going to have a wonderful open world experience, how you are soaking up the environment, the characters, everything that is for you to approach are there. Secondly, it is about how you're engaging with those characters, how you are talking, asking questions, and unlocking different quests and sub-quests. And then that will provide you with extra loot. You will get into certain areas of the map that previously were not accessible. You'll discover certain quests in the areas where previously you had nothing to do. And it's altogether a multi-layered experience of you being an active participant in that massive big world, which theoretically should be mirroring our world. And I think more recent games were really trying to bring in all the activities and ins and outs of what we do otherwise. And I've got to say, in Yakuza, although this is not a typical open world game, we would walk into a shop and then we could read a magazine, or we can come to a bar, do karaoke, do a dance with one of the girls. We can play darts, and it's all golf. Yeah, just remember that, play golf with one of the guys there. And therefore you are repeating the kinds of activities that you would otherwise do in real life, but in a different environment. I think it is for you as a participant to be building your character who is very similar to the way you are. So in GTA 5 you will have a limited capacity to do that, because they comprise all the genres which are described, and the whole activity is fairly hectic, because you'll be driving a lot, you'll be walking a lot, running a lot. But if you're looking at the games like the Outer Worlds, another game that I'm playing at the moment, then you really can base the protagonist on your own character. You will have 3 different lines of questioning, which is similar to what Bethesda did in Fallout, and you will kind of pitch that accordingly. If you're a person who's quite aggressive, you go for unpleasant responses. If you are a diplomatic, kind of noble, polite type of person, go for these. And then if you want to be ironic, you'll pitch it for the middle. So you need to obviously connect with that side of your character literally throughout the whole game, and that's what I would advise. And specifically with some other games like Detroit Become Human, where how you ask questions and what solutions you pursue will actually determine the outcome, and therefore you need to stick to that. You can replay the game with another approach, but don't really kind of mix it up as you are indeed entering various activities, because that will be affecting the overall outcome and the resolution that you want to be getting. And I've paid the price a few times, played Heavy Rain a couple of times, and several times, and I want to get a happy ending, and the way I kind of did certain things were always giving me the ending that I didn't want to get. So it makes you replay the game more and more. But coming back to the Outer Worlds, it's the multitude of options that you have. The idea is that you experience this world in full, you tailor your protagonist to your own character, and then you are just exploring all that is coming your way. I think if we compare GTA with the Outer Worlds, I think GTA will feel perhaps more similar to Destiny, because it does have a story which is kind of told in a very non-linear fashion. There will be bits and pieces connecting the story, but it is all about you having, living in that city and doing different things, which could actually come your way on any day, at any moment in time. And with the Outer Worlds, you will have a perfect blend of narrative with all the activities, which I think is quite. It's done in a mastered fashion, so I really highly recommend it to everyone. And the Outer Worlds been one of my heavyweights really during the last couple of weeks. Played it during my Easter weekend and absolutely loved it. Really enjoyed it. They also enhanced it in recent times with some extra content. The prologue and the initial section of the game is a lot more accessible and less difficult, and therefore we have also in-game tutor that's telling you all that you need to be doing. So that is all being really greatly appreciated, and you really you enter the game in order to enjoy the story. The story is just incredible. There's so many different characters, different planets, different colonies, different ideas, different tasks, and I really like doing that. I like feeling industrious. You come in and collect all the tasks and you keep completing them, and finishing off everything, one by one. So in addition to that, we have other two games that have been entertaining and certainly enjoying a lot. They are most notably Outriders, the game that we're also streaming here on the channel. The game will be back very shortly here on everyday basis. They've had some serious technical issues which sadly were affecting the inventory, so some of the stuff that you were collecting would instantly disappear if you pursued a particular option. I'm not exactly sure which one. So I've streamed it for about 4 or 5 days initially, and then I've taken the decision to give it a break because I want the tech side of things to be completely resolved, so have really really smooth plain sailing through all the content. And I find the game to be really good and thoroughly enjoyable, and you've seen that from everyone really that belongs to our gaming community. People really kind of jumped in and embraced it in full, and completely different to what some of the industry sections wanted to do in order to bury the game and ruin the success of the developer People Can Fly. So I'm very, very glad to see that the effort that was trying to hamper the release of this wonderful new title had failed, as whatever they said in Eurogamer, PC Gamer and in Games Radar was just completely ignored by the community. People watched trailers, people watched gameplay, and most importantly the game was released also through Game Pass, which brought in roughly, approximately could have brought in 18 million new gamers, subscribers, and everyone would be looking at it because this was the biggest release. The game they advertised quite a bit, and most importantly it's the first third-party game that was being released on the first day through the streaming platform. So very, very interesting development, and certainly a very good game, a proper multiplayer. Three guys can get act together and then battle all the enemies on Enoch, this colony that humanity created in order to survive the perils that inhabited the earth. And looking really fantastically well designed, and the open world is highly mysterious and with plenty of corners to explore. The battle sequences are enjoyable on replay and with some really very tricky mini bosses, so really plenty of fun to be had. We are going to be back to Outriders this week, so watch this space for a lot more. And then we have Yakuza that's been recommended by Jeff Rubinstein of Xbox, and I'm playing it also bit by bit, progressing forward, gone to chapter 10 already, and have 1,000 chapters to get through, so it will take me a few years to get through it all. And what's most astonishing is how incredibly emotional the storytelling is. And on the other hand, in addition to the fact you bond with children in the orphanage in Yakuza 3, you bond with some of the other characters, you also getting to know a lot about the Japan of today. So similar to what we had in the indie game I played recently and streamed here, Nightcall, when we learned everything with Paris of today, we are getting the same kind of aura from Yakuza as well. And also it's a game that's fairly complex, bringing in several genres and subgenres together. You have first of all an adventure game through straightforward linear narrative, then you have open world to a degree, although it varies from installment to installment how big it is, and then you have the areas where you are exploring different activities, golf, darts, karaoke, reading of the magazines, various other things which you will discover as you go through different areas on the map. And then most importantly you will have fighting. So it's a combination of all of these, all blending in together, story driven, thoroughly enjoyable, and I'll probably say one of the most complex and most enjoyable Japanese made games that I've ever played, and very grateful to Jeff for first of all recommending it, not as much, and secondly bringing it obviously through his praise to Xbox Game Pass, so we can access all the installments in there with ease, even on the remastered trilogy version, which I have to say looks and sounds incredible. It's next gen, it is completely different and thoroughly more enjoyable when compared to anything else I've seen on the old style, the old gen graphics, and I access them on PS Now services. So that really is my current gaming, and we have quite a list of games on here. I have a list of games in my notebook which I still need to get through. Genesis Noir and Octopath Traveler are the two that I've looked at but I've not played, but just simply isn't enough time, and these games are going to stay with us for a little while, so I'm not really worried that they will disappear too suddenly or anything like that. Hopefully you're all enjoying your games as well. Maybe you can drop us a line and tell us what you are cracking on with this weekend, whether it's the usual suspects like Warzone, Apex and Destiny, some of the most popular, maybe Fortnite as well. Fortnite's been played quite a bit of late. And before I migrate to the news, I want to tell you that we also have Season 6 on the Master Chief Collection, so anyone who's a Halo veteran, definitely dip in, have a look, and try to collect some of the goodies which are offered. I've got to really confess I'm a huge Halo fan. I played the game a lot in the first decade. I played also Halo, the Master Chief Collection, recently, during the last couple of years, and I streamed it in here on my channel as well. We try to really tie in Halo, the Master Chief Collection with Mixer, and I stream exclusively the entire section of that edition through the Mixer, and unfortunately it didn't really perform too well, and I still have all of the streams on my computer because for whatever reason they were not allowing to have straightforward uploads to YouTube. You have to be downloading the whole stream to your computer, which will take a very long time, as you know that obviously these files are massive, and then upload would take even longer. So that was really quite a nightmare. And then on the other hand, technically their streaming tool Mixer didn't perform at all. It looked a lot more user-friendly than Twitch and simpler to a degree, but technically it wouldn't record some of the broadcasts. So you go back to them and you say, oh, it's just it failed on the server, didn't record, and that's about it. Well, anyone who's a pro streamer will tell you recording the stream is phenomenally important. If you don't have the system on the streaming platform that records it automatically, or there are problems, you need to have your own one and you need to pay for it, and it just becomes like a very complicated problem which is affecting everyone, obviously viewers in addition to streamers as well. And I just gave it 28 days, didn't work, and migrated, and sadly that Halo stream was attached to Mixer rather than Twitch, so we'll go back to it sometime. I think I'm looking for a period, I guess, starting out presently with Outriders that will bring us back to sci-fi. So we'll have Outriders, we'll have Mass Effect Legendary Edition, we'll have Destiny, of course, and they will probably have the Master Chief Collection. So that's a really good spread of top-notch, very high-quality sci-fi games which are presently on offer. And I can only say that one's better than another. It's just all of them are exciting in very different ways, and if you want to be exploring the infinite open world, you'll go to Destiny. If you want to do like a proper looter and shooter, you want to go to Halo. If you want to enjoy fantastically story-driven adventure in space, it's Mass Effect, and the list just goes on and on. So anyway, all these games are highly recommended, and if you are on our streaming platforms, just simply download, like Game Pass gives you instant access to Mass Effect Trilogy and the Master Chief Collections. Just click on that, install, download, and then crack on with some activity. Also, tell us a bit about the Master Chief Collection. I didn't manage to build a community here on Twitch compared to what we have with Apex, Warzone, and Destiny. The reason for this is simple. I'd not been streaming Halo for too long, and I did have people coming in and advising and connecting and being quite interested. But it's the regularity of a lengthier period of time that actually will make that community work. And I think that's the plan for the future. I'm hoping that some of our Destiny veterans will want to see what Halo was about too. Some of them are also Halo veterans like myself, but other people are not, and they probably see some of the Halo activities as being old gen, and they prefer Destiny. But no one should forget that Destiny is basically an organic ancestor of Halo, because Bungie created both, really, the original trilogy as well as Destiny 1 and 2, and therefore you'll recognize certain elements of gameplay and activity. So yeah, drop us a line, tell us what you are playing this weekend, what you are finding presently enjoyable, what games you want to be playing, and just tell us all about how you're finding these streaming platforms, because the streaming platforms at the moment are the big thing. Microsoft is investing a huge amount of revenue in their streaming platform, notably Xbox Game Pass. You've seen recently they purchased Bethesda, they joined the Microsoft umbrella of Microsoft family, I should say, a group of companies that are operating under the auspices, and we also had EA Play included just before Christmas, I think, and therefore the number of games had significantly risen. And we also heard this weekend that Sony, although they were denying that they wanted to run a model similar to Xbox Game Pass, out of the blue decided that, well, they just backtracked. What they said before was not to be, and they will be coming up with something similar, a new model, they said, that will be mirroring the competitors. So I'm curious to see what the model is going to be, because all I heard from the CEO Jim Ryan was what I didn't want to hear, and he basically said, we are not interested in giving you the exclusives on the first day through streaming platforms. We don't want to be running a system which is similar to Game Pass on that level, because we do not consider that to be financially viable for us, etc., etc. But they realized that with third-party inclusions like Outriders, and having, first of all, very negative publicity raised from the major industry hubs, did not affect the game release and did not affect the gaming community, and people just jumped in, and therefore Outriders was one of the most successful launches, if we exclude the technical problems, the most successful launches as far as the numbers of the participants are concerned in quite a few years. And also what's interesting is, due to the responsiveness of People Can Fly, there was relatively little dissatisfaction vented out on Twitter and other forums, Reddit in particular, because everyone felt supported. People were understanding of the problem. You have a new game that will have 150 concurrent players coming in at any moment in time, and 150,000 I should say, and that itself was then causing crashes and technical issues. So people understand it, but it was more to do with the way People Can Fly tackled the issue, their responsiveness, the immediacy and the accuracy with the answers and responses to the vast majority of messages that would come in. That was not seen in responses or non-responses coming from BioWare, from Bethesda, from Rockstar, from other big AAA blockbuster companies, heavyweights, and therefore our members of gaming community were really, really displaying that degree of appreciation. So I've seen several thousand of compliments given to the developer. People said, well, we are happy to have the game, we enjoyed really playing the game for a while, but we'll just wait until everything is resolved, and then we'll kind of come in with our friends and enjoy it in full. So, curious to see what Sony will come up with. So that's under wraps, but it has been confirmed this weekend, and they will be working on the new model, I guess similar to Xbox Game Pass. And one shouldn't really ignore the service they already have. It is a service that provides you with more than 700 titles. The titles are perhaps not as varied or as comprehensive as the ones on Game Pass, and they also favored lots of Sony exclusives and Sony and I could say generally Japanese titles or Japanese-based titles, which were previously not accessible to us in Western Europe. And I enjoyed the service from the beginning. The only thing there is, compared to Xbox Game Pass, not all games are downloadable, which is a serious issue, so I do not really like that. Secondly, on the plus side of things, every game that they have is streamable, so if you don't want to play the game, if you have a quick look at maybe 10-20 titles within one afternoon, you can do that just by pressing that stream button, and that's excellent because you're not going to be playing the game and you're giving the best possible impression of what this game is like. The other thing, the streaming services don't come up as a full screen, and I really couldn't resolve this. I just wondered as to why that was, but it's just weird. And I have both Sony Bravia TV as well as PlayStation 4, and they should be compatible, but they explained to me that's just the way they deliver it. It's nothing to do with a TV set or anything else. So that's a serious thumbs down as well. The biggest problem with them is they do not run their own servers. So you will have quite a few games that were released on PlayStation 2 and 3 and they don't perform too well on PlayStation 4 to the streaming services. The controller doesn't work properly, the character moves too fast, there are many technical issues in there, and that really is where Microsoft is excelling, because due to their backward compatibility, all the games have been already tailored and adapted for the next-gen usage, and certainly their creed is to provide the entire library of titles, every one of those that have been ever released on Xbox, through backward compatibility. And we've seen last week, and I talked about it here, they also gave us is it 15 or 20 titles? I think it's 15 titles that we can already be trying through xCloud and our phones. So these are titles from the 360 and Xbox original era. So that's delightful. There's no need for you to be buying these titles yet again. In order to play them on a different platform or on a different next-gen console, you can simply access them through xCloud and everything plays as normal. So this is what's absent with PlayStation Now services. And I think Xbox need to introduce the instant streaming on console so that we can immediately look at the game. There's a monetary reason as to why they've not done it so far, because every single time you download a game, it indicates that actually it's been downloaded, as if you purchased it, right? And the stats and the figures will go up and up, and they will favor the developer. If you're just clicking on how many people streamed, I guess it should be exactly the same sort of thing, but it doesn't have the same implication, That's just the way it is, and I'm really hoping that Xbox Game Pass will introduce the instant streaming button as well, because I really love that. I really do. It really makes it easy for me to double check games and to basically decide what I'm going to be playing first. And let's not forget, if you have 700-800 games, you're not going to be playing every one of these. There will be quite a few games that you do not want to be playing, but you can have a look at them, and therefore by looking at them, by looking through that, just clicking on that stream button or downloading them, you are going to be supporting the developer, and that's equally important. Obviously, the developer wants you to buy the game to have it and to play it all the time, but we know full well that this is not going to be possible for every single title. So yeah, so these are the news. This is all very interesting and exciting as far as Sony and Microsoft are concerned, but now I'm going to be having a look at what we heard from the industry, the usual industry-based news. And the biggest thing that came in overnight was related to Age of Empires 4, and we had a big global community event on Xbox, and therefore the first pictures and first experiences of this new upcoming Age of Empires 4 transpired. We have the Definitive Edition, and we heard that that edition will receive new updates, including the Dawn of the Dukes expansion for Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, and the United States Civilization for Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition. So there's lots of DLCs included in the new Definitive Editions. Also, they're asked to visit the virtual village to explore the buildings, experiences, learn more about Age of Empires 4, and enjoy a lot of exclusive video content. It's quite mind-boggling how these games are developing, because you have this exclusive video content, it's like some extras, and then you've seen that, for instance, in Detroit Become Human. As you went through the game, you were unlocking certain types of videos, and those were documentaries on how the game was made. So once you completed the full game, you would go to extras and you unlocked every one of these. You can watch a lengthy documentaries on how the game was made, interviews with all the participants, with the team, with the director, the actors. It's just absolutely astonishing. And don't forget, with the games, the real time strategy games like Age of Empires, you will get a lot of educational tools. So you learn about a particular world, and you'll get a lot of information on all that was happening there in history. So we have an in-depth look at Age of Empires 4. So the preview event kicked off with a detailed look at one of the new playable civilizations in Age of Empires 4, and that's the Delhi Sultanate, and showed off one of their most iconic units in action, the War Elephant. Mixed in with gameplay of archers firing down from above on castle walls, spearmen engaging in combat, Sultanate scholars capturing sacred sites and supporting War Elephant assaults, it all looked very much like Age of Empires, and all of that was obviously seen in full action. So the global show continued with a peek into the Norman campaign, which also gave us our first look at the new presentation style for Age of Empires 4's campaign. So drawing inspiration from gilded manuscripts of the time, the Golden Soldiers project historical events over present-day real-world locations, and giving us a realistic sense of place in how events unfolded hundreds of years ago. So it's really very much tied to the history and to the fact. So therefore, once you play the game, you'll learn all about it. It becomes not just a game, it's also an educational tool, which is what I really admire. And it's very BBC documentary styled, and it looks great. So lots of new things will be coming our way through the presentations. The Norman campaign will tell the story of Duke William of Normandy as he wrestles control of England from King Harold, starting at the Battle of Hastings, then later followed his descendants Robert William II and Henry I as they continue to fight for what will become modern-day England. So anyone who is a scholar of English history, well, this is obviously this is going to be of huge interest to you, and all beautifully told. All the classic medieval units were shown here in action, from knights on horseback engaging with pikemen across large fields of battle, capped off with a great-looking castle siege. Looking very epic, many units in the fields, and the game engine itself displaying well-detailed grass on the fields, intricate stone textures on the castle walls, and detailed features of units from the shields, spears, and armor. So that's really cool. A look through the ages, medieval, feudal, castle, and imperial. Following that reveal, we were treated to an even deeper dive into gameplay in Age of Empires 4, starting off with the high medieval ages and battle between the English and the Delhi Sultanate, as we were about to be guided through the game's full ages. It started off showcasing English villagers gathering resources to start building up their town centre, with scouts hunting deer and villagers collecting meat from sheep. Soon a lone scout comes across an enemy fortification, and from there you can guess what comes next. War. It's not long until we see spearmen, archers, and more combat-oriented construction developing as the civilizations start to age up and skirmishes escalate to war as each continues to battle for control of the map. Well, that's the story of the man, isn't it? It's been like this for centuries. On the other side of the world, the feudal age featured for the Mongols and the Chinese civilizations, a great contrast to the castles and knights shown earlier. The Chinese identity is immediately apparent, with unique architecture and costuming, period-accurate language, and military units clad in traditional garb wielding intimidating weaponry. Contrasting them with the Mongols and the heavy use of tent-like structures, which suits their playstyle and allows them to pack up the entire village and relocate to different sections of the map in search of resources. With their focus on the stone resources and being able to move their entire city at will, many new tactics and strategies become possible. So speaking of novel strategies, we got a good look at the new stealth forest mechanic, which are unique patches of forest that units can hide within to set up ambushes and other activities. Sight into and within these forest areas is severely limited, meaning armies could move right past each other and never see each other. You know that your units are in stealth woods by the blue outline around them and their whispered responses. So then we had another preview of the castle, which was a very lengthy preview, now featuring an advanced Delhi Sultanate and English civilization battle. So this was full on war elephants taking on giant castles, siege towers creeping their way forward, soldiers clashing swords along castle walls. It was all very, very epic. Finally, the gameplay video returned to the Imperial Age as the Chinese and Mongols, now with huge epic keeps, multiple unit structures like barracks and stables, and more refined architecture as they prepare for Mongol invasion. Massive units took to the field of battle, full of all kinds of weapons and hurling rocks at the castle walls. Soldiers sprinting across the field on horseback, nests of bees volleying explosives, signal fireworks being shot into the air to boost morale, and a lot more. So all that's been really illustrating so well how Relic Entertainment have been able to capture the look and feel of classic Age of Empires gameplay. Gather, build, age up, explore. And this has been making this series so unique. So we're all very curious, interested to see how this is going to be transpiring. So let me see, we have also a bit more news on the special editions. Some fan previews as well, updates to Age of Empires Definitive Editions. Told you already that these extras will be there. I do apologize, I don't know what's happening to my voice. And then there will be also Age of Empires 4 closed beta and Alienware sweepstakes. So they will be, I think, running through April the 24th. So if you're interested, just go to Xbox Wire, have a look at the dates. And then also, the last bit of news there is visit the virtual village. Now the show is wrapped. Further your celebration and all of your things Age of Empires by visiting the virtual village. Explore the buildings, experiences, learn more about Age of Empires 4, and enjoy exclusive video content. Get creative by producing your own avatar medallion, a village postcard, or even your own coat of arms. So there's plenty of more to discover, so why not pay a visit? I'm curious about the virtual village as well. So there'll be a lot more news related to Age of Empires 4 in the coming months, and I think the launch has been penciled for September, October this year. And anyway, anybody interested in this, you can just, keep an eye on Xbox Wire, and they will obviously provide you with lots of different information and news coming in over the days, weeks, and months to come. Just see if anything else would have come in. There was another bit of news on our Twitter. Bear with me. And the news are related to, there was one big thing saying that the Homefront developer discovered hidden Time Splitters 2 unlock codes after the game shipped. And that's been causing some issues because it looked like these codes were unlocking the game and providing also additional content and images. So I'm not exactly sure what happened, but they're trying to resolve this at the moment. So the question was raised, why were these unlock codes created in the first place and who created them? And still no answers coming in from the developer. They said, according to the source, when Dambustard bought over the original Time Splitters 2 files, those files also included these codes. The Easter egg, born out of an office joke, had only ever been designed as being just the first two Time Splitter 2 levels. This time was too short to make sure that everything else would work. Well, let's just wait and see what happens next. Then we've heard that the Mass Effect Legendary Edition has gone gold ahead of its May the 14th launch date. So I'm very, very curious to see what that indeed would mean for us all. And they said that there was so many copies sold, pre-ordered digitally. And they said that the Legendary Edition will launch in just about a month, and the Remastered Trilogy's project director Mark Walters did announce that it's already gone gold. That means there is very little chance it's going to get bumped from its May the 14th release date. Well, it's always, I wouldn't really bank on that because they could discover an issue and then pull it. But considering it's not a multiplayer, it's not going to be cross-platform. Therefore, I would expect very, very few issues with the game. And Walters celebrated the occasion with a clip of several Mass Effect characters dancing, including meme legend Garrus Volkarian. Despite its most serious tone, there are plenty of funny moments in the trilogy, with most being intentional. And what does it mean actually when a game goes gold? It essentially means that its code is finalized to the point where it can be put onto the disks and shipped. However, because we live in an area of content updates and patches, it doesn't really mean as much as it used to. Well, previously it would mean that the game was ready to be basically placed on disks. BioWare could choose to replace huge amounts of the game's code in the future if it wanted to change something, but it does still serve as a big milestone for developers who've been working on the project for months or years. Mass Effect Legendary Edition bundles together the first 3 games with improvements to make them feel like one cohesive experience. The first game was criticized in its original state for lackluster combat, and this should no longer be an issue in the retooled version. It's coming to PS4, Xbox One and PC with optimizations for the newer systems rather than dedication to the next-gen systems. A 5th Mass Effect game is in full development, but it appears to be pretty early at the moment. A teaser suggests it could somehow act as a successor to both Andromeda and the original trilogy. I think that's not quite correct. What they've written on GameSpot, it is going to be a new trilogy, so Andromeda is not really part and parcel of that. So that's great news, and I think that's probably all I have for you today, because it's Sunday and we didn't have really that many interesting news coming our way. Since yesterday, lots of people watched that community content on Xbox, and you know, we are just really all very excited about next week and all that is to follow. So as far as this channel is concerned, we'll have our daily podcast, and we'll be coming back to some of our favorites here live online. Outriders, Destiny and Warzone are the games that are going to be spearheading the effort. We are going to have Genesis Noir and Narita Boy introduced through DRBMiller introducing, and then we'll have a lot more of that wonderful community-based content. I've got to say, as I've not been streaming Warzone or Destiny during the last couple of weeks, I've really begun to miss my friends, you know, because it's, like I said, any title had become a social network, and we meet every day at the same time in order to talk, to connect, to interact. And once you get used to that for a period of time, it's almost like, you know, you've been away from your family, you've not seen them for a long while, you've not talked to them, and it's a wonderful experience. And I really also look forward to the new tools that Microsoft are telling us about that will make both Game Pass as well as individual games more interactive. So I'm very, very curious to see what they will introduce. Make no mistake, they have absolutely phenomenal inventors in the team, and they're also bringing in the best minds from the entire world to come to them. And as you've seen with Obsidian and Bethesda joining the company, they basically just, you know, brought in some of the very best developers that the earth knows, and that is definitely going to be working to their advantage. If you have a chance, make sure you definitely try the Outer Worlds. I think it's the best game that Obsidian ever created. You can also experiment with Grounded, a game that is still in development but accessible through Game Pass, or you can go and try Fallout New Vegas, that many consider to be the very best in the series. So anyway, loads of games are there for you to enjoy, together with Bethesda and all else that we talked about here today. A nice weather outside, so what I'll do is I'll just put my coat on and enjoy a bit of you know, fresh air in our local nature reserve. And then I would also wish you all a healthy, safe and happy afternoon with a lot of wonderful games on your consoles or any other platforms. And I'll see you all tomorrow.